What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Fireside Giants. I'm your host, Anthony Rivardo, joined by my co-host, Alex Wilson. And Darren Waller dropped another track. He dropped a little bit of a sneak preview to a song where he was sitting on his balcony shirtless, no shoes on, just rapping about how TMZ keeps talking about him and the divorce that he's going through, and kind of alluding to the fact that he maybe doesn't want to play football anymore. I don't know, very wild. I wish that he would stop posting his music. I don't like listening to it. Unfortunately, as a Giants fan, I have to hear it, but I really don't want to hear it. I've had enough of the Darren Waller tracks. I don't want to hear them anymore, and I'm sure that a lot of you are feeling the same way, but there might be a new track coming. Maybe he's going to drop the retirement track, announce his retirement in a song. That's my theory for what Darren Waller's about to do, because all the reports indicate he's going to be retiring within the next week. The Giants kick off minicamp next week, mandatory, or whatever they're kicking off. I think it's mandatory minicamp next week, some more practices. And according to Jordan Rannon and Adam Schefter of ESPN, the Giants expect Darren Waller to announce his retirement right ahead of the minicamp. They feel as though he will not be returning to the team this season. And I will say, it doesn't look like he will be. All the videos that he's posting of him rapping and launching this music career, that seems to be what he's more interested in. He's talked all offseason long about how he's not 100% sure if he's fully committed to football. It doesn't feel like he can play unless he is fully committed. Well, everything that he's been posting looks like he's committing to music instead as he goes through what he's going through in his personal life, and I wish him all the best with that. But it does look like the New York Giants are going to be without Darren Waller this upcoming season. So what does that mean for this team? Well, it does mean that the Giants get an influx of $11.6 million in salary cap space, which is kind of a whole lot of money at this stage in the offseason. The Giants only have about $1 million to $2 million in salary cap space right now. Definitely not enough money to sign any free agents or upgrade the talent on the roster at all. But with an extra almost $12 million, the Giants could probably go out there and add some significant talent to the lineup if they really want to, or at least add a lot of depth to their roster. So we kind of want to discuss that, talk about what it means with Waller not going to be on the field for the Giants this season, most likely. Again, it's pretty much all but confirmed now that he's going to retire. What can they do with that money? Are there any intriguing players that they can go out into free agency and sign? That's kind of what we want to discuss in this episode. But before we dive into all that, make sure to leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe to the channel if you're new, ring the bell so you don't miss an episode, comment your thoughts down below. If you're listening out for Spotify, please make sure to leave us a 5-star review. Go ahead and follow us on all of our social media channels at Fireside Giants. Without further ado, Alex, how are you doing today, my friend? How are you feeling about the recent string of songs that Darren Waller has dropped? Are they fire? Are they trash? Are they just okay? And how do you feel about the fact that the Giants are probably getting an additional $11 million from his retirement?
I'm doing pretty good. I'll tell you what, I am not a fan of the songs themselves. I am totally for expressing your emotions through music or whatever, but it just seems like he's pushing it a little too far. We're talking about TMZ right now. Like, who the hell cares? I don't care about Kelsey Plum and Darren Waller's relationship. I'm sure you guys don't give a rat's ass either. Nobody cares about their relationship. Let them deal with it in private. TMZ, whatever. I don't give a crap. Not reading that shit. Sorry, excuse me for my language, but I really just could not care less. I just want the freaking money, or I don't want the money, and I want to figure out what we're going to do with the freaking money, and that's what we're going to talk about today. What we could do with $11.6 million in the cornerbacks, specifically, that I had in mind that might be of interest for the Giants. Now, the weakest position on this team is objectively cornerback in terms of just overall experience, right? Cordell Flott, Deontay Banks, Nick McLeod, Drew Phillips. There's not much there, right? There's not much for us to say, okay, well, I really think this is going to be a top 5 unit. Well, I love Deontay Banks, but I don't know if Cordell Flott or Nick McLeod are going to be good. You know, right now we're just projecting. We're hoping, we're praying, really, that they take big developmental steps forward. I think that the Giants should be absolutely in the market for a veteran cornerback. Now, I have 3 names I'm going to throw out to you, Anthony. I have one that stands out to me the most and played a really big role last year for an NFC East rival, so we kind of know what he maybe get some experience or get some value there in terms of maybe he has some knowledge on this team and how we can stop him. And that's going to be, I'm going to start with Stephon Gilmore of the Dallas Cowboys last season. Now, Trayvon Diggs goes down with an injury, tears his ACL, and Stephon Gilmore is forced to play CB1 for them. And that was not what he was supposed to be doing. He was supposed to be CB2 alongside Diggs. I don't think that he's a CB1 at this point in his career. I think he's a fine CB2. I think alongside Deontay Banks, I would be pretty happy with him. Now, last year he did give up 734 yards in coverage, 5 touchdowns. He had 9 pass breakups, but he's played 2 consecutive years with over 1,000 snaps. And I will say this once again, he was going up against the top cornerbacks in the league. I want to see more in terms of him against CB2, against WR2s rather. I want to see him against secondary options, third options, not top guys like Justin Jefferson and CeeDee Lamb and Terry McLaurin's of the world and, the Tyreek Hills of the world. I want to see him going up against like the Christian Kirks of the world, or maybe, he's even CB1 for the Jags, maybe even like the Darius Slaytons of the world, like those type of guys, the Jahan Dotsons of the world. I don't want to see him going up against the big guns. And because he's a little bit older and he's had 2 good healthy years, I do think that he would be a pretty cost efficient signing for the Giants. Maybe 6-7 mil for 1 year for Gilmore. I could see that being kind of in the realm of what he'd want, and the Giants walk into the season with about $5 or $6 million left over in case they have any emergencies. What are your thoughts there? The other 2 names I'm going to throw out there are Dory Jackson, bringing him back, which I don't really want to do, and then Xavier Howard of the Dolphins is another guy who could be of interest. He's had a couple down seasons, but maybe the Giants say, oh, well, he could be decent for us at CB2. Obviously he's had some history with injuries as well, so I kind of like Gilmore in the 2 consecutive seasons with good health. What are you thinking in terms of those options?
Stephon Gilmore, former 2-time All-Pro, first-team All-Pro, and he's been to 5 Pro Bowls in his NFL career, was amazing with the Buffalo Bills, was just elite with the New England Patriots. But these past 3 seasons, one with Carolina, one with Indianapolis, one with Dallas, hasn't been his old self. But you are right, he's been healthy these past 2 years, and that's huge. He's going to be 34 this season. He's not a player that's a long-term solution for you at the cornerback spot, and that could be the argument as to why you don't want to sign him. Why take the opportunities away from a younger player like Cordell Flott, who's going into his 3rd season, or a younger player like Nick McLeod is only going into his 4th season? These guys have potential. They can develop and become high-quality starters long term. Stephon Gilmore gives you basically a rental, 1 year of decent play. Maybe he doesn't even play well this year because he might regress as he turns 34 years old. So there's a lot of risk involved with signing a player like Stephon Gilmore, in my opinion. You probably insert him into the starting lineup automatically because he's Stephon Gilmore, but does he play like Stephon Gilmore is the question, and how long is his leash? Does he hold your team back? There are a lot of question marks with Stephon Gilmore, but ultimately, I would be interested in the signing because he is still playing at a high level, and the Giants don't have a whole lot of verified talent on this roster, especially in their defensive backfield. We're talking about 24 or 25 years or younger for all of these guys. Jason Pinnock, Tyler Nubin, Deontay Banks, Cordell Flott, and Nick McLeod. None of those guys, and Andrew Phillips. All those guys are starters potentially in this Giants secondary. None of them are over the age of 25. So bringing in a 33, 34-year-old former All-Pro, I don't think it's a bad idea to bring some experience to this team. He can even at the very least serve as a mentor and kind of guiding figure to some of these younger cornerbacks in the lineup. So I do like the idea of bringing in Stephon Gilmore if the price is right. I don't think it's something that I would necessarily prioritize or say needs to happen immediately, but if it does happen, I will be pleasantly surprised, and I could see the upside of bringing in Gilmore. But Alex, I do want to bring up the fact that if Darren Waller does retire, the Giants are losing a talent on offense. They are losing a starting tight end. Yes, we like Bellinger, we like Theo Johnson. I think those guys can be their starters. But do you think that this means they need to add more depth at tight end? Do they need to take some of those cap savings that they get from the Waller retirement and reinvest it into the tight end group? If so, do you see anybody on the free agency market that stands out? Because the only guy that I saw was Logan Thomas, and he just got signed yesterday. So Logan Thomas isn't even that option. I don't know who the heck the Giants could add at tight end to create some more depth or talent into that position. So kind of how do you feel about that? Waller's retirement, does that leave a hole in this team? Or because of the way they operated this offseason, kind of acting like as if Waller wasn't going to be here anyway, do you feel comfortable with the tight end position?
It's a good question. I think that I do feel comfortable with it, and the reason I do is because, listen, you can't have stars at every single position. You have to have developmental players that pan out at a couple spots. I like Bellinger as a blocker. He's an underrated receiver, and Theo Johnson is going to be really nice. I saw a couple clips of him. Now, look, we're just OTA clips, nothing crazy, but the guy can move, and I envision his role. Look, if I was the Giants, and hear me out, Anthony, I mean, the guy's a freak athlete, right? He can run. The guy can freaking run. He has a crazy speed at his size, 6'6", like 250, some crazy frame there. But I would like the Giants to go and pluck the best plays of Jimmy Graham's career and copy and paste them to what I want Theo Johnson to do. that's kind of where I see him making a really big impact. He was a really good red zone threat for Penn State. I would like to go steal Jimmy Graham's best plays ever and then replicate them for Theo Johnson. That's kind of what I like about Johnson, is that he's a basketball like Duncan frame. And I'd like to see them maximize it, right? Like Kyle Rudolph, remember they got him and they were like, he's going to be our red zone threat. Guy couldn't freaking move. Guy was like walking in cement. Now you have this guy who can run a 4.58, whatever it was, 40-yard dash at his size. Get him open, give him opportunities, utilize that frame, let him grow. He's going to be a really nice security blanket for Daniel Jones, but also, don't be surprised if you see him run down those seams at 50 miles an hour, getting those passes over the middle. So I do like him a lot. You can run him into danger because he's got the size to do it, and he'll bounce off those safeties. They're so small, they can't hip drop tackle anymore. He's going to bounce off those guys, throw it into traffic to him, let him make plays. So I think that will be where the Giants look to expand. Look, Waller's a luxury item, but he was injured half the time. So, what are you really doing here? He was never going to be available when you needed him the most, and he wasn't. And even when he was available, the Giants couldn't get the freaking ball to him because the offensive line was so bad. Might as well turn things over, grow, reduce the cost. $15 million for a tight end right now is not where the Giants want to be spending their money. Let's see if Theo Johnson can be a much cheaper alternative. And at the end of the day, really good teams have really good tight ends, but Darren Waller's entering the end of his prime, and you're not going to get Travis Kelce value out of Darren Waller. You're not going to get George Kittle value or Sam Laporta. Look at all the young tight ends being ushered into the league right now. Laporta, Kyle Pitts, some of those guys, cost-controlled kind of contracts right now. The Giants can find, and a lot of teams are finding, great value in mid-round tight ends. Musgrove and some really good ones. I know the Bills have a new young guy too. So there's so much talent at the position, young talent. The Giants are next in line to get one of those guys. I think they can reduce costs at tight end. I think that I'm okay with what we have right now.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. I really like Daniel Bellinger as that kind of underneath option as a receiver. I mean, this is a guy who had 3 touchdowns in a very limited sample size of playing time as a rookie. Didn't even get a single touchdown last year, barely saw the football. I didn't like the way that the Giants used Daniel Bellinger this year. However, I don't think they're going to have to use him that way in 2024. And what I mean by that is Bellinger was basically forced to play as an extra offensive tackle all throughout the 2023 season because the Giants' offensive line was really bad. Evan Neal played really poorly. The guards were a revolving door of lack of talent week in and week out. So they needed an extra blocker out there, and that ended up just being Daniel Bellinger chipping on the shoulders of the left or the right tackle. A lot of injuries also held back the offensive line. Even Andrew Thomas wasn't in the lineup for many of the weeks of the season. But in 2024, Giants made some upgrades on this offensive line. Bellinger can actually play tight end rather than playing offensive tackle plus. So I think that's going to be really important and lead to him having a larger role as a receiver in this offense. And like you said, Theo Johnson, just let him run the Darren Waller routes. He's got a very similar playing style, very similar frame. I think that he can fill that role really well and kind of move into a pretty prominent position as a rookie. So really like Theo Johnson and Daniel Bellinger and what they're going to bring. So I don't think that it is necessarily a priority for the Giants to go out there and add more quality talent to the tight end room, again, even though they are receiving that influx of cap space. But Alex, anyone else who stands out in the free agency market, any other positions of need that you think the Giants could address with the salary cap space?
Right now I think cornerback's really what I'm looking at the most. All the better players in terms of defensive line, offensive line have been plucked off the market. Secondary, maybe there's a veteran safety. I know they have Jalen Mills. He's okay. He's nothing to write home about. Maybe you want to go and get maybe another. You still have Darnay. I don't know. I think that quarterback's really where I'm looking. I think that's kind of the spot that needs the most support, and we don't have that much money. We'll have $12.6 million to spend. So give me that. That cornerback, that veteran guy. And look, you're not looking for him to start immediately. Let him compete, man. Gilmore's 34, like you said. Let him compete with Cordell Flott. Worst case, he gets the best out of them because he's got the experience. Worst case, he ends up being a mentor to one of those guys. I think that's a win-win situation personally. If the Giants are truly trying to win games, let the best man win. That's kind of where I'm at right now. These guys got to start winning jobs, not failing in their development and stalling. And the Giants have been developing Cordell Flott for the better part of 2 years. Nick McLeod, obviously, he's had a couple years of experience as well. It's time for guys to step up, and adding a veteran to that room I don't think is a bad thing sometimes.
Yeah, I do agree with you on that. I think that the Giants should add some sort of talent to that cornerback room, but I think the Giants fans should temper their expectations. They're likely not signing a bona fide starter for that role. They're probably just adding in more depth, another depth piece to round out the unit and give them a little bit of insurance in case of injuries. Because keep in mind, guys, Cordell Fly is expected to step into that starting role. He's missed 10 games with injuries over the past 2 years. This is a guy that the Giants, how much can they rely on him is a question. So even if they do feel confident going into the year with Cordell Flott as their starter and with Nick McLeod potentially as that starter as well, they probably should add some experience and depth behind those two players. And for what it's worth, Alex, I know you said that you weren't crazy about the idea of bringing back Adoree Jackson. I wouldn't mind it. I don't think that he's very interested in coming back. I think that he would have already signed back by now if he was going to. And also, they already gave his number away to Andrew Phillips, so it pretty much signifies that the Giants don't have an interest in bringing back Adoree Jackson anyway. But me personally, he's a guy who knows the system, knows the culture, knows the players around him. I wouldn't hate to have him on the field or on the roster really as just a depth piece in some capacity. Veteran guy who knows the guys and can kind of assimilate really easily if they were to sign him maybe during training camp and just kind of keep that door open for Adoree Jackson potentially. That's something that I would be interested in, but it's not something I would rush to do. I think the Giants can go throughout the summer, go throughout training camp, see if they do suffer any injuries at important positions of need, and then utilize their salary cap space only if they need to. They don't need to rush and go out there with this newfound money and just start spending it willy-nilly. They just need to hold on to it, keep it as insurance fund, and go ahead and sign players if they sustain any injuries throughout the summer. That's what I think they should do, and that's what I think they will do. And of course, any signings that they make, any acquisitions that the Giants do make with this new salary cap space, we'll update you on right here on Fireside Giants. One last thing that I will throw out there, though, actually, Alex, before I wrap this, just as a really crazy idea, this salary cap space could potentially open up a trade for the Giants. Maybe they make a training camp trade. I know that earlier in the offseason, before the draft, we talked a lot about Brandon Ayuk, how I didn't think he was going to get traded during the draft. He didn't. There's still rumors that him or Deebo Samuel could be traded. Now that looks like my prediction is right. That could happen during training camp. So we'll see if any training camp players become available for trade and if something materializes for the Giants. Then they do have enough salary cap space to probably bring in a high-quality talent at that stage of the offseason if they want to. But we'll talk about that when that occurs. And, of course, we'll continue to update you on any Giant signings, rumors, acquisitions right here on Fireside Giants. So make sure to leave a like if you enjoyed this episode. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. Ring the bell so you don't miss an episode. And comment your thoughts down below in the comment section. If you're listening to Apple or Spotify, please make sure to leave us a 5-star review. Go ahead and follow us on all of our social media channels at Fireside Giants. Without further ado, we'll catch you on the next one. Have a good one. And let's go Giants.
Perfect.